And welcome back to Fourth and Pain, the only pro wrestling show to be hosted by an NFL player and a weight loss champion, typically joined by Adam Carriker, but he is off on diaper duty, just welcomed his second daughter into the world earlier this week, so he's got the week off. I am Chuck Carroll flying solo, but I'm bringing in 106.7 The Fan's own Sky Kerstein to help us give out mid-season report cards for the Redskins and look ahead to this afternoon's game against the Carolina Panthers. Sky, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Chuck. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I gotta say, I've been following you on Twitter, and something has happened to you this year. I don't know what it is, but you are suddenly just a pillar of positivity, man. What the hell happened?
Chuck, it's all about, I'll say this, it's all about getting in shape. You're a weight loss champion. I've been working out very hard lately, losing a lot of weight, eating right, and it just makes everything else a lot happier. And, it makes you smile a lot more when you feel good about yourself. So that's, pretty much what happened. When others go out for those fried meals during lunch, you know how it is at Redskins Park. I eat healthy, and it just makes you feel a lot better. To be totally honest with you.
Yeah, man, and I was out there with you guys on Thursday, and I commended you as everybody else headed out to, I believe, get buffalo wings and pizza or something like that. You stayed right there. You had your salad from Wegmans, man, and I was sipping my coconut water. We looked, like a couple of rabbits and hippies, but I was pretty damn proud of us, man.
Well, yeah, if you're happy with yourself, you're going to be happy around others. And that's where it really starts. It's getting yourself in shape. And I'm getting old. I'm 30 now. It's time to grow up, and it's time to take care of myself. And that's what I've been doing, just working out every day and eating right. And it really makes a huge difference in the way not only you look, but the way you feel as well.
And that's a message I've been trying to get across to a friend of ours out there who doesn't work at the Fan, works somewhere else, and we won't mention any names, but he and I got into a little bit of a tiff out there on Thursday, and he's trying to argue with me that Diet Coke is actually healthy, and I look at him, Sky, and I take pause and I say, well, I'm thinking to myself, I'm too nice of a guy to say this, and maybe I'm even a little bit gutless, but I'm thinking that's why you are where you are and I am where I am. But I still have hope that I'm going to be able to have that breakthrough with him. But you know what? Let's table all that talk. Let's talk a little bit about football here. Halfway point in the Redskins season. They're going to play game number 9 this afternoon, a must-win game against the Carolina Panthers. So the first thing I want to talk about, Robert Griffin III, as good as expected, about what you expected, Sky, or is this a kid that's just exceeding expectations across the board?
It's weird because we talked to Mike Shanahan about this, and he said he's exceeded expectations across the board. Kyle Shanahan was a little more reserved on it, but his expectations were really, really high, Chuck. And yes, he's met them, and I would say he's exceeded them, but we all knew this guy could revolutionize the position. He not only can throw the ball accurately and make the right decisions, he can run the ball as well, as we saw in a 76-yard run for a touchdown a few weeks ago. So I think he's exceeded the position or exceeded expectations, but he's also changed the position. And now, instead of playing 10 offensive players against 11 defensive players, they're playing 11 on 11. And that changes everything, and it opens up a lot more holes, as we've seen from Alfred Morris.
Well, here's my question, though. Obviously there's a lot of tape now on RG3. It's not this great unknown. You know what the Shanahans are going to do with him roughly each week. And so last week against the Steelers, you see him get shut down more so than we've seen in previous games. Is that a prelude of what's to come? Kind of like Cam Newton now is not having a sophomore season, the likes of which, that prolific rookie year that he had. Newton's been really slowed. We'll see him this afternoon. But are we at a point now where RG3 will also be slowed because the opponents know what to expect out of this guy?
I don't think so, because RG3, in my opinion, is a lot more talented than Cam Newton. He's like, let's say, what they want to get him like is a Peyton Manning out there with 4.25 speed. That's what they really want.
Right.
And that's what they're going to get with an RG3 down the road. Right now, He's not there yet because he's still learning everything, but soon he'll be able to call his own plays. Cam Newton can't do that. And if you take away the run from RG3, soon he'll be able to pass the ball. The Redskins don't have the offensive weapons right now to do that. They lost Fred Davis. Pierre Garçon hasn't been on the field in quite a while. But when they do, it's going to be very tough to stop him, because if you want to stop the pass, that's fine. Then he'll run it. And he'll do it a lot of option reads, do that little flick over the middle to the tight end, which he's really good at.
Right.
Or if you want to stop the run, then he'll pass it. And he'll read your defense, which we've seen a little bit so far this year. He's just going to get better and better with more experience. In that Giants game, he recognized that Santana Moss was on a rookie, and he threw it for the touchdown. That should have been the game-winning touchdown, but we saw what happened right after that.
Right.
So you're going to see a lot of teams trying to adjust, but it's very tough to shut him down, only because you take away the run, he'll pass. You take away the pass, he'll run. And he's just going to get better and better week by week. But again, right now, I think one major problem is he's losing his weapons. Losing Fred Davis was a big blow, especially when you've already lost Pierre Garçon for a good amount of time. And who knows when Pierre Garçon's going to be back.
Right. Supposedly after the bye, that remains to be seen. But before we get to the receiving core, let's turn to the backfield a little bit. You know, Sky, heading into the season, everybody's saying, well, your number one's either going to be Tim Hightower, if he can come back and be healthy, Evan Royster, or Roy Halou. Nobody's thinking it's going to be Alfred Morris, the 6th rounder. But nonetheless, here we go. Through 8 games, he's got 717 yards. He's on pace for a 1,400-yard season with 10 touchdowns. I mean, give this guy a grade. In my opinion, he's got to be an A.
Oh, easily an A, probably an A+, because you look at where he was drafted. Now, you look at what Florida Atlantic had. They didn't have a very good offensive line, and that's why he didn't get a lot of hype coming out.
Right.
But Alfred Morris has been terrific. The part that I love the most about him is he usually doesn't get taken down by the first guy who makes contact with him. He usually gets a lot of yards after contact, and that's what I love about him. His feet are always moving. And I thought that they kind of went away from the run a lot last week when they needed to really run it up the middle, and a lot has to do with their defense, just not being able to stop the Pittsburgh Steelers, or, you know, we've seen this year not be able to stop anybody. And I think that's why they kind of had to pass, because they were just getting down by too many points. But Alfred Morris has been fantastic. And again, you run with him, he's going to hit you, and he's going to run you over. He never stops moving his feet, and that's what you love about a running back, and that's what you love about Alfred Morris.
He's a good guy, and a 2-time 4th and Payne champion. Let's touch real quick on the receiving core. Fred Davis goes down, obviously was the number one target for Robert Griffin III, but he's lost for the season. Here's my thing. The Redskins have this young receiving core. They bring in Pierre Garçon. Garçon hasn't been able to go. And so it's the veteran Santana Moss, who a lot of people were wondering if he would even make the roster this year. He goes out, he makes it a point to train really hard to come back in the best shape of his career to make this roster. And not only, Sky, has he made the team, but right now at the wide receiver position, I don't think that there's a better player out there or a more go-to guy for the Redskins.
Yeah, he's been terrific this year, but again, there isn't, because they don't have anybody, because Fred Davis is out for the year and Pierre Garçon is injured, and that should be your number one. But yes, Santana Moss has been absolutely terrific. But one thing we saw last week by everybody, including Santana Moss, was the drops. Can you believe it? 10 drops. 10.
I've
it's
never.
Unbelievable. You would have first down after first down after first down, and the Redskins could not get drives going because guys were dropping the ball, and they weren't even that bad at passes. They were just dropping. Now, again, some weren't on target, but as Leonard Hagerson told me 2 days ago or 3 days ago, he said that doesn't matter where the ball is. If it touches your hands, you've got to catch the ball.
Right. And
these guys weren't catching the ball. And Santana Moss, I think, has been fantastic this year. I like him a lot more out there when you do have a Pierre Garçon or even a Fred Davis in there, because you put him in the slot, and I think it gives him a lot more options. But again, you got to catch the ball. And this entire team, that's been their biggest issue, is you can't. They've been dropping the ball, especially last week against Pittsburgh.
We're speaking with Sky Kerstein here on 4th and Payne, counting down until kickoff this afternoon against the Carolina Panthers. Real quick before we wrap up the midseason assessment and we just kind of make our predictions for this afternoon's game. Defense, 32nd ranked against the pass. Everybody had high hopes for this going in. I know Brian Arakpo, a number of guys on that defensive unit said, hey, this is going to be a top 10 or a top 5 defense. If it's not, we're going to be woefully disappointed. Well, Sky, not only is it not even close to the top 10, these guys are in the basement. Is there anything that this unit can do to kind of turn things around? And what happens to Jim Haslett if the Redskins can't put a W on the board this afternoon?
Well, I don't think anything happens to Jim Haslett because, honestly, I don't think it's his fault. It's the players they have there. The secondary we knew was a big issue coming in, and they've been absolutely atrocious. Now, losing Tenard Jackson before the season started to a drug suspension, that hurt. Losing Brandon Merriweather, and he hasn't even played yet, that hurt. Or I don't even know if it was a drug suspension for Tenard. It was a illegal substance or whatever.
Yeah, it was on the banned substance list, whatever.
Yeah, banned substance list. So you lose those guys right off the bat. So now you already are playing with a Madu Williams who's a little banged up in training camp, didn't get a lot of reps. And then who else do you have out there? DJ Gomes or Reed Dowdy? You just don't have a lot of guys in your secondary. We knew this coming in. Cedric Griffin's been all right. He struggled throughout the preseason though. D'Angelo Hall has been really bad on covering. Now he will get you turnovers and he'll make tackles once in a while, but he can't cover worth anything right now. So they have a lot of issues back there. Now, does it also hurt them that they don't have a lot of pressure up front because you lose a guy like Adam Carriker, your co-host, and a Brian Arakla? That's going to hurt a lot right there. And London Fletcher's not 100% right now. That's going to hurt you. But again, this secondary is just been giving up way too many passes and way too many yards, and that's really hurt them this year.
Has there been anybody on this unit that's kind of stood out to you that's kind of like maybe outperform the rest of their teammates? To me, if you're just looking at the stat line, you got a guy like Ryan Kerrigan, the linebacker. He's got himself 4.5 sacks this year. You look at the defensive totals then for everybody else, and it's hard to argue that anybody else has really kind of stepped up and has done what they're supposed to do this season.
Yeah, I think Perry Riley's played all right. I think Lorenzo Alexander and Spots has played all right. But you look at what happened with Ryan Kerrigan now, without having Brian Arakpo over there, you're going to get double teamed, and the line's going to come down, as Mike Shanahan said today, and you're not going to be able, you're going to get chipped a lot. You're not going to be able to get to the quarterback like you were. That's where Rob Jackson, I think Rob Jackson's actually played very well in a reserve role behind Brian Arakpo. I think he's played great. But again, it's not the same as having a Brian Arakpo out there. It doesn't free up Ryan Kerrigan, which was happening with Brian Arakpo out there. And that's where this defense really struggles, is they just don't have those playmakers because you lost them. And then your playmakers now are getting double teamed, they're getting chipped, and they're not going to be able to make those plays like they were before.
All right, Sky, last question before we make our predictions about the game. Supposing Brandon Merriweather finally is able to return from that knee injury after the bye, he comes back, he's healthy. How much of an impact is he actually going to have on the secondary?
Well, he hasn't played in weeks, so I don't think it's going to be much. You talk to the writers in Chicago, they don't think he's very good. So who really knows with him? That's a wild card. We really didn't see much of him in the preseason. And honestly, when you haven't been on the field, and it's going to be 8 or 9 weeks by then, how much can you really give? Right.
It's a good question. It's a conundrum, and it's probably going to have to be Washington. What's that?
I mean, this defense just really, I just don't see them getting better. Now, you talk to Mike Shanahan like he's today, or I'm sorry, 2 days ago, he talked about how this team is getting better and better just because these young players on defense are playing in more plays, and they're going to improve that way. It's just very hard to see right now.
Yeah, it's a process. Shanahan has said repeatedly this is a 5-year plan. And you know what? We're at the halfway point of the 5-year plan, and a lot of people are saying, well, it's tough to see a lot of improvement outside of Robert Griffin III. And a lot of people now are saying, Danny Smith, he's on the hot seat. Jim Haslett, you don't think so, but maybe he's a little bit on the hot seat. So the Washington Redskins, they're calling this a must-win game this afternoon against the Carolina Panthers. Carolina only has 1 win so far this season, but they played their last couple of games tight. The Redskins publicly are saying this isn't a game that they're taking lightly, and how could they with just 3 wins themselves? Sky, how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, well, you don't want to go to the bye week 3-6 and lose another one at home, but you talk about the Carolina Panthers. They lost at Chicago 23-22 last week. 2 weeks ago, they lost at home 19-14 to Dallas. 3 weeks ago, they lost 16-12 to Seattle. And against Atlanta, they only lost by 2 4 weeks ago. So they're not getting crushed. They're barely losing. I think it's going to be a very tough game for the Redskins. They need to keep Cam Newton in check. The one good thing that they've done this year is their run defense. They've only given up 100-plus yards once, and that was last week against Pittsburgh. They were a little embarrassed because of that. So I think defensively they'll play a lot better and they'll get the rush. They need to rush Cam Newton though. And one thing that does give them the low advantage on defense, they play against RG3 every single day. So they know what it's like playing against a rushing quarterback. Offensively, they have an playoff caliber offense. They really do. And with RG3, it gives you just so many options out there. I think they really need to run the ball with Alfred Morris. He needs to get 100-plus yards. RG3 probably needs to be in the 70 to 100-yard range rushing. And passing-wise, maybe 200-plus yards. I like the Redskins in this game. I'll have them winning. I haven't even thought about this yet, but, probably 34-24, somewhere around that today. We'll see. I mean, it's a good day for them at FedEx Field. It's nice out. We'll see what they can do, and they really have to start winning these home games. But again, another good thing is after the bye week, they really get into their NFC schedule. They got through a lot of their non-conference schedule right now. Those are the games you really have to win, but you definitely don't want to be 3-6 going to the bye week. 4-5 sounds a lot better. If not by much.
No doubt. And this is a real statement game for the Redskins offense. They just want to put Pittsburgh in the rearview mirror. Like you said, they want to go into the bye week with that win. For that reason, I don't think that they're going to put up 34, but I think that you're looking at maybe a 28-24 game. I think that this is a game that Washington will win. And then, oh, by the way, Shanahan, when he has that extra week to plan, when he has that extra time to prep for his next opponent, he does pretty well historically. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I know that it's like maybe he has 2 or 3 times the winning percentage coming off of the bye or the first game of the season that he does on a week-to-week basis. So then you're looking at a point where the Redskins could conceivably draw even at 500 and, more importantly, just have a 2-game winning streak, something that's been few and far between in the recent years here in Washington. So, Sky Kerstein, thank you so very much.
And if they did that, Chuck, don't forget they saw 5 NFC East games after that.
Yeah.
So if they can get to 500, you still have the bulk of your NFC East schedule, and they're in driving position. But you have to win today. You cannot lose to the Carolina Panthers at home going to a bye week. This is a must-win for the Redskins.
Sky Kerstein, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for having me, Chuck.
All right, this is Fourth and Pain. We'll be right back.